Not nice.
Whoa!
I don't really know.
Strong open.
Wow. You don't like mine? Fuck you. Hello and welcome to another Woodshop podcast with Mike Coffey of Coffee Custom Builds, Daniel Dunlap of Daniel Dunlap Woodworks, and Peter Kapar of Petrie's Workshop. You can find us all as well as the podcast on Instagram and YouTube.
Welcome to episode 114 of another Woodshop podcast, where we just recycle jokes every single week and give them another life. And on that note, we have the guys from Cambium Carbon who recycle wood every single week.
Hey, that's pretty good,
That
Pete.
worked out well.
Yeah, but it's every single day.
It's every day.
I like it. Not every
So
week.
Jeff and Paul from
work.
Cambium
It
Carbon
works.
are joining us this week, and they're going to tell us all about how to recycle wood into wood feet.
We can do both.
Yeah, I mean, and
What's
they
going on,
don't,
guys?
right? Like they said, it's not once a week like us lazy podcasters. They're turning trees into usable lumber every.
They're
single
doing
day.
God's work every day.
Ouch.
Thank you.
Whoa.
It's about time.
It's about some recognition.
Yeah,
Finally.
we needed something higher
Taking
too.
forever.
Let's. I think real quick. I mean, people may not know who you guys are. Which one of you wants to say?
I have no
what
idea who
Cambium
these
Carbon
guys
is?
are, and they're here.
Well,
All right,
to be
Dan.
fair, you've had 37 liters of summer shandy and margarita mix in one. No, why don't one of you guys tell us what Cambium Carbon is, what that organization does, what you guys are up to, and then we'll ask what each one of you guys do individually. So, go.
Man,
Take it, Jeff.
I love that intensity right off the bat. That was fantastic.
Yeah.
That was so good. That was so
Take
You
it,
good.
thought
buddy.
the pre-show was
Yeah.
intense? Well, buckle up.
Yep.
Sally.
Yeah.
Run with it.
That's
Remember all those
fantastic.
jokes we made before? It's to get them off our chest. Nothing's funny from here on out. Tell us the facts.
It's all seriousness.
Well, numbers and metrics.
I can totally do that. That's awesome. So at Cambium Carbon, we're actually on a mission to create local supply chains around waste wood. And so much of this wood falls in our cities and suburban areas that just goes unused. It ends up in landfill. It ends up being burnt, ends up being destroyed. It's a massive amount of wood. And all of that stuff.
Before
Yes,
you
Steve.
go on, can I
Please.
ask you to elaborate on waste wood a little bit?
Yeah,
Because you
so-
just threw that out there
I
like,
did throw that out there, huh? I'm crazy. So what happens is
These buzzwords, we don't know. What does it mean? What could it possibly mean?
Maryland.
I have a lot of waste wood in my shop.
Dan
You
would
do.
like you to
What is
really
waste wood
specifically
to
elaborate
you,
on,
Jeff?
on wood. What is wood to
Yeah,
you?
so the term that you hear a lot is like urban wood, and we have our own branding around that. It's carbon smart wood as well. So this is any wood that the lumber industry deems as just waste. So it's stuff that's not destined to be harvested as lumber. So we always say, and Paul says this a ton too, is like the state of Maryland is considered a complete urban state because no tree that falls in Maryland is logged through the traditional lumber industry.
Maryland
Really?
is waste.
Wow.
Got it.
Maryland's waste. All the trees in Maryland are deemed waste trees, which we know isn't true. There's beautiful
Right.
trees and there's great lumber that comes out of it, but that's just how the traditional lumber industry defines it.
And I might be wrong
so
here,
that's
but
what we said.
Maryland has a lot of damn trees.
A ton.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
A ton.
There's no actual logging
I mean,
in Maryland.
Paul is
No.
doing this podcast from his tree fort.
He's in Maryland.
In Maryland. He's in Maryland.
This
too.
is like the last tree left.
Yeah.
Just hanging out. in it.
If you don't understand what I'm talking about, you have to watch this on the YouTube.
It's
Paul's
just
doing
piles
the
of
podcast
tires
for me.
and styrofoam everywhere.
I mean, he's got the
It's really
suspenders
gross.
and everything. He's got the full outfit.
He's Paul Bunyan, if you will.
To be clear, the suspenders are purely because the idea of wearing a tourniquet around my waist is for 20-year-olds. I'm way beyond that now. Belts.
Tourniquet or cummerbund?
Yeah, well, when you weigh as much as I do, they're tourniquets.
All right.
Dan took that personally. Anyway, Jeff, keep going.
I did.
I'm saying me.
He's very
Yeah,
insecure.
he's
Everything
looking
about
down.
I love
He's
it,
like,
So
Jeff, back to
this,
you.
this wood gets wasted because the incentives are all wrong. Like when you see a tree that falls, even taking down trees in my own yard. It's tree service company comes, they cut it into small pieces, they chip it up, they throw it away. They're just trying to get in and out as quick as possible. And all that wood is really valuable. We're talking about something that can be worth in just mercantile wood, $36 billion potentially.
Whoa.
$36 million. I said billion, but I meant million. I meant million.
That's shocking.
I did get excited.
It's fine.
Jeff, I don't know if you know this, but I'm the math guy, and I just want to interrupt.
See,
that is a big number.
It is a big number. It is a big number. It is still a big number. And this is the thing that we really focus on too. It's like, not only is this a massive problem that we need to address, but it's also a great impactful way that we can address climate change too, right? Like, all this wood gets wasted. Cities that we've worked with are spending a ton of money to remove this wood, and instead they can be using this as an asset instead of a liability, where they can be putting people to work locally. They can be taking this wood in and putting it back into a local supply chain. And also all the sequestered carbon, all the avoided emissions, all the great things that we can do, as well as bringing this wood and putting more people to work in our local cities and within our country, which is all part of the mission that we're on right now.
And I don't want to interrupt. Like, out here where I live, we see, I mean, there's lots of walnut groves. There's lots. It's California. I'm out in California. There's the Central Valley has a ton of agricultural based, there's a lot of money coming in from the agriculture out there. And it's exactly what Jeff's saying. I mean, I'll drive up to some of my partners up north and I'll pass through a ton of walnut groves. And in the late winter, early spring, there's just piles of walnut burning, piles of it, like huge piles. And it makes me legitimately bummed out seeing that, because, and Jeff was talking about carbon sequestering. Basically what he's saying is, instead of taking that, because trees pull carbon out of the air, and when you burn them, it gets re-released. And that is not what we want. No. On account of death. No,
I understand.
Want to keep that in there.
That's accurate.
On account of continuing to breathe and live.
Yeah, continuing to breathe. It's it's carbon bad, and we're having shirts made after this episode that say carbon good. Bad. No, yeah, oxygen good. Bad. And then there's going to be shirts that say I'm with carbon. But then
I feel like the diamond industry might be against us in that.
No, but you drive up and you go and you see this stuff, and there's got to be a better way. When you're someone who knows what the value of the wood is, you can see it and go, there's got to be a better way. And that's what this is. This is taking that wood, and it's not like a new idea. I mean, before the big lumber industry came around, people were getting lumber themselves locally. Correct. They didn't have kilns
back in ancient times.
They didn't have kilns like we do now. They had their ways of drying. They would air dry and do their things. Right.
Yeah,
in Omaha 13 years ago. No, it was, it's not a new idea. It's an idea that's coming back around. Same with furniture, though. I mean, a lot of our audience is woodworkers and furniture makers. There is definitely a movement towards smaller. People aren't wanting to go to Target as much to buy a dining table. They're wanting to find people who can make it for them custom. And that's sort of the same direction that this industry is going. We're finding ways to maximize our output and minimize our waste with a product that's very viable. And what I had bought some of the English walnut through Cambium Carbon, and we did some of the Carbon Smart lumber. And I'll tell you, I love English walnut. English walnut and English elm are like my two favorite species to work with as a furniture maker. I love English walnut.
My question to you is, why are you anti-American?
Very pro-English. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, very pro-English. I was going to make a joke that I told Jeff I wouldn't make earlier. So,
wait, Mike.
I didn't promise
I love
anything.
Hearing about this, but I want to hear about this stuff from the two guys we brought on. I know you're very knowledgeable with it, but I do want to hear it from the source.
So anyway, the English walnut, English elm, these things are very great. You see this waste, and these guys are doing something about it. So
totally.
Anyway, Jeff, back to you.
Totally, Mike. I appreciate your knowledge, and I know we have a good relationship, and we've definitely sent some wood your way, and I love the things you're doing on Instagram too. We like all the objects you guys create on there. When we went out there too to see the orchards, we saw the same thing you just said. Just piles and piles, like football fields, as far as the eye can see, of just English walnut mulch. and firewood, and just this stuff just becoming useless and becoming burnt, and just the value of that is just incredible, both for the impact and for us as a people, but also for local jobs, and also for what we can be doing as the consumer side of things. And that's what you just touched on a little bit when you talk about like Target and some of these big box stores and some of these other furniture manufacturers. The consumer behaviors changed a lot in the last 5 years, last 10 years. We used to brag in this country back in the 90s, 80s. People used to brag all the time. And like when they did
for the record, the 90s was like 20 years ago.
It felt like that, right? It was just a
remind you.
But remember back in the 90s though, when people used to go, oh my God, you got to come in my bathroom. I got this beautiful tile from Italy.
Yes.
And it was the last tile that was ever made.
Oh my
gosh.
Guy
died on his workbench making this tile. And oh, by the way, come into our conference room. This was made from the last tree in Indonesia that ever stood in this particular village. And they used to worship it for 300 years.
I've never
we
been
were
to
able
that
to
room.
cut it down for our conference table. Like that whole idea of like talking about how far objects traveled to get to where you are, like that's gone. Now we talk about, hey,
local.
It's everything's local. It's farm to table. It's farmer's market. It's, oh, by the way, this tree stood within 20 miles of where it was taken down, processed, milled, dried, turned into a gorgeous object that now stands in your dining room. And that's the badge of honor now, where you can tell people that come in and have dinner with you, guess this story now is what plays, and it's the local story.
100%.
And that's the differentiator that we're really leaning into too, as a company, is that a lot of everyday consumers don't know that this is out there. It's happening in really small regional parts across the country. And what we're trying to do is shine a light on this and create a national network of people that are utilizing this wood and allowing some of the bigger brands to tap into this, because you just can't do it by yourself. Like, bringing 100,000 board foot to market from local fallen lumber in one area of the country is just not enough to handle some of these massive furniture buyers out there. And so we're trying to create a national network around this type of wood. And we're trying to utilize a lot of it through the network and create the demand in a brand new supply chain around this wood. And Carbon Smart wood, for us, the definition there is locally salvaged, locally processed, plants local trees. That's the big thing. It's got to fund the community tree planting as well, because that's the full circular economy around the product.
What are some hurdles that you've had to deal with in this industry? What have you had to overcome to make this marketable?
Well,
that is
Paul, you can jump in, man.
That is
plenty
like
of
another 7 podcasts. I don't think we could ever possibly fit that into
Tune
one.
in next
Bring
week.
it. Bring it.
I'm like,
we got time.
The most obvious is that we as a society have just become disconnected from like what materials we should be using for what things. I'm like, the idea that we're taking plastic objects that are floating across the ocean and we're using them for 3 months and we're throwing them away. So starting from that very most basic part of educating the society to actually recognize of all the uses that we could use for wood, that's been a huge hurdle, because so many people just are completely disconnected from the reality of what that even is. People don't know where a 2x4 comes from anymore. They don't understand the entire process. Just completely disconnected. So it starts from the consumer, and then every step along the what I call the A to Z trail, from the arborist finding a dead tree all the way to Z being it's into someone's home or into a project. Every single step has been an issue. And it's been fun for me personally to figure it out and really navigate through it. But you're moving very heavy objects. You're dealing with municipalities, cities, and state governments that don't want this. They don't want the mess and just what comes from having to mill and process lumber, and then the infrastructure that's necessary to be able to process the material through milling and drying is definitely not really enjoyed in most cities any longer. And then actually finding someone that can make the product. No one knows how to do this anymore.
So you're telling me, I'm sorry, Paul. You're telling me it's not as simple It's not as simple as cutting down a tree and making a table.
Not at all.
There's quite a bit more in between.
Of course. And I started with being that naive and just saying, oh, it can't be that hard. It's a big board and you're taking it to a saw and you're making it smaller, just like any other woodworking project. But I was sadly mistaken. It's been hurdles the entire way. And I actually find it fun. I enjoy it. I come from a construction background and I worked my way through the ranks of that and really enjoyed that process. But my hobby was always trees and woodworking. And once I realized the level of waste that was taking place within the tree community and the arborist and tree care community in Maryland, and I was just going to places where there were just rows and rows and rows of 32-inch and larger diameter butt logs.
Which is large, by the way.
It's huge. And they're just rotting. And then to learn that the city of Baltimore is spending $1 million every 2 years to just turn it into mulch that they can't even sell back to the people within the city. It's just, to me, it was just like, oh my God, why am I buying this?
In line with that. I'm sorry, I have a lot of questions as we go.
Sure,
rip
me up.
What does the city of Baltimore do with that mulch that they can't sell back to the community? Do you have any idea?
Yeah, they take it to a mulch processing facility in a state in which it allows the processing to occur, which is Pennsylvania. And it is then bagged in plastic and then shipped to the Home Depot and Lowe's of the surrounding area.
What about Menards? I maybe bought some of those.
Menards. I have never heard of a Menards.
Oh my gosh, Paul, we need to talk after this.
It's like a Kmart. They have everything. But like
I can get cargo shorts and
it's
chisels.
like a Kmart, meaning it existed 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So wait, I have a question about this whole process because like obviously this is costing the cities a lot and whatnot. And a lot of times people tend to think of like this rescued lumber as free wood. And I'm curious as like, A, how often is it free? B, do you sometimes get paid to remove it? And C, do you sometimes have to pay for it? Like, how does that whole thing work?
Yeah. So we don't take trees down. The whole goal is here is that we're trying to work with other groups, tree companies and municipalities to be able to take what's already fallen and what's already dead. What typically costs money, because actually buying the log, there's very little value in what's in there because on its face, you don't know what's inside. So you don't know if you're going to spend all that time and money to open something up and realize that you can't really use the material.
Garbage.
So that's one part of it.
Yeah.
The other part is access. Not every tree is easy to get to. And if you've made something out of wood, which I'm sure everyone here and everyone listening understands, finding lumber of an appreciable length is an important part of the woodworking process. And most tree companies cut things about 18 inches high so that they can be picked up and thrown in a truck. So it's not free in any way. We definitely wind up paying some money, but the money is typically going towards getting access, meaning a crane or a log truck or something that's going to be able to move a 10,000 pound log from where it grew for 150 years to the sawmill. So what's really being bought is commonly all of the logistics and all of the weight that has to be moved to be able to actually get a chance to process that log. And even at that, you're still taking a huge risk because you have no clue what's inside. You can look at a log and kind of get an idea, but at the end of the day, you don't know until you open it up. So the idea of buying logs and the idea, I'm like, that definitely exists and that's out there. And I have definitely bought logs before because there are trees that have died and they fall and you recognize that there is value within that. And but most of the time, the expense is really going towards the logistics. It is not going to the material itself. So
yeah, and just to add on to that too, for that whole topic is like, we really don't want to create a perverse market around people being incentivized to take live trees down because a certain species has a value on it. Like that's the opposite of what we want. And so having no value in the log, like that's a really important thing. And then the other thing we're really passionate about is trying to find creative uses for species that nobody cares about. Like that's the other big thing.
Cottonwood,
red oak, pin oak, like there's a whole list of them that goes on, and figuring out how do we utilize these woods? Because guess what? Out of the urban forest, you don't get to pick and choose all the species that come out. Like trees fall, you just get what you get. And so utilizing more of that wood that really doesn't have that demand side attached to it is so important for our mission, and creating some really unique ways and strategic ways that we can utilize those species is also a big part of what we're doing.
What are some of the more unique ways I guess the question is, what species and what are the most unique ways you've found to utilize a species to find value in a salvage log?
I want to answer this before Paul and Jeff do. Hear me out here. River tables.
Great.
You can't say that.
You don't want to get me started on that.
You legally can't say
plastic at it. Let's go.
I'm sorry. Go on, gentlemen.
No. I mean, Paul, I'll start with some of this, but I mean, obviously, if you get something that is really, really large, like a big heritage tree, something like that, like you still can create some beautiful slabs, and we've done some incredible large red oak tables and things like that. So there's still beauty in the biggest, longest slabs that you can find, right? There's still some beauty into that part, and then the other part of it. Big, thick, wide, big ass slabs, right? Like those that's really what we're going for. Because no matter what the species is, it's still usable because it's exciting about how big it is. It's awesome.
I'm sorry, Jeff. Paul's just been in the background going thick and wide.
Yeah, he built a whole business around thick and wide.
I think that's a strip club by Pete's house, actually.
That's the bear den.
Jersey.
I'm actually. What? Go ahead,
Paul. Sorry. No, I was going to say I'm seeing cottonwood show up a lot on in social media lately, like as a table. And I'm starting to see like show up as a big table option for people, and I'm like, holy cow! Okay, that's interesting.
I can get behind that. I hate cottonwood as a tree, dude. I have 7.
Yeah,
literally 7 around my home. They're over 100 feet tall. They're the worst tree on the planet. I have to go outside and clean my air conditioner.
You just hate the stuff that comes off of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, the cotton.
Well, sure.
Yeah, the cotton.
And that happens.
If the Lord was to strike those trees down,
you would need to file an insurance claim because they're over your house.
I would not be saddened.
So
you only have one living room.
Yeah. Here come the attacks.
All right, so look. Let me bring this back for a minute. This is a great example. Cottonwood is not supposed
worst
to be used for tables. It is very soft.
It smells great as firewood.
Yeah, exactly. And there are certain woods that make great firewood and make great mulch, and that's just the reality of the way we need to view this. Because it's not every tree and every board can't make a beautiful piece of wood. Let's just be clear.
It's not. Yeah.
It's not possible.
It's like the carp of trees.
Ooh, there goes our fishing audience.
Yeah, there goes all the
carp fans out there.
Big carp angler crowd is out. Yeah. Big carp,
dude. They're coming after you now. That's a problem. But some of these woods do have really great values to them, and so one of the things that we've been pioneering too is thermal modification, which isn't something new. It's something that's been around for forever.
But I think it's growing in popularity quite a bit over the last few years. I myself have used it on a few projects actually.
And I think the idea too is it's growing in popularity here in the United States. Because I think it's been really popular over in Europe for a good period of time, and now it's starting to grow.
They always get everything first.
They do, man. They do. They're so ahead of the curve.
We should do something about that. Yeah, revolution, maybe.
I think you got to be really quiet though, because Mike's been all over the English stuff. So we just
He's a blimey.
Yeah. No, so I mean, so that's like a really big thing that we've been pioneering, especially with urban wood, right? So if you can say that we're utilizing all of these unwanted woods that are coming out of the urban forest and we're having a real use for them, and oh, by the way, that use is kicking away all the desire for ipe and teak and all these other hardwoods that come out of the rainforest that we're really trying not to use right now. Like that is a win-win-win across the board, and those are the kind of things that we're all about. So I'm really excited about those opportunities.
Very to Jeff's point, it's the amount of red oak that exists from coast to coast is just unbelievable. And every city is throwing it away. Every city has no clue how to use
red oak is beautiful.
And, there's a lot of
Dan.
It's fallen in love, man.
I love it.
So can you
just don't stain it orange, and it's gorgeous.
Can you elaborate more on the
orange.
thermal modification and some of the benefits and how the wood can be used after it's thermally modified, just so people know?
Yeah, so thermal modification is a process, and I'm not going to get too technical here. And if I'm mistaken,
that's what we're all about, technicality here on AWP.
Oh,
it's essentially that out. You're drying the lumber to a level in which, on a cellular level, where the water molecule would sit within lumber. You're shrinking that area down, that cell down to a point in which it cannot bring moisture back into that cell. So you're making it to where it really can't absorb moisture.
I'm sorry, you're going way too technical. Could you dumb it down?
Dan, they air fry the lumber.
Yeah.
All right, there we go.
There you go. Think mozzarella sticks in
air fried red oak. Thank you.
It's not far off. It's not far off. You're essentially heating the lumber to several hundred degrees Fahrenheit, and you're doing it in a very controlled way because obviously wood will combust at a certain point.
That's what I've heard.
Once you take it to that point, you have material that doesn't reabsorb moisture. It will a little, but not to the extent in which it will start to degrade the material. And to get nerdy about it, the one thing that really destroys wood faster than anything is the presence of moisture. Moisture is what allows insects to be interested. Moisture allows fungus to grow, and the insects and the moisture, along with UV light, will eventually break that down. And the actual lignin within the wood is actually being eaten by these insects or fungus. So without the moisture, the fungus has no interest in growing, and the insects don't want to show up and eat. So at the end of the day, you have a product that can really withstand a lot of bad conditions and a lot of different situations. And you have something that not necessarily is going to last forever, because nothing lasts forever, but you're able to really put it into a lot of good use, where pressure treated lumber all the way up to ipe is really not the right decision for environmental purposes, and removing the rainforest and the chemical usage of treated lumber and on and on.
Have you heard of paint?
So a lot of people paint thermally modified wood too.
Really?
Yeah.
So can you use this thermally modified wood outside a lot more openly over, like let's say thermally modified oak? Can you build a deck out of it? Might sound like a dumb question, but like that's a crazy option, because you usually with some of these like open grain boards, you wouldn't really want to be leaving outside. You wouldn't want to use them on a deck, but like I have to redo my deck next year, and I've been thinking like, what are the options?
A lot of deck jokes here.
And everyone's thinking like, oh, you have to get the Trex or whatever, the plastic wood, which I might not want to go that route. Probably don't want to go that route. So it's good to know that there's other options. Now, how is this any different from like kiln drying? What's the difference between kiln drying and then thermally modifying? Because I think people might be curious about that.
So thermal modification is kiln drying. It's just kiln drying to an extreme. You're in typical kiln drying, we're drying lumber down to 6 to 10% moisture content, which is great. That's what we need to put wood inside in most conditioned homes throughout the country. Maybe not Nebraska, but in the rest of the country.
Ouch. What's with these attacks?
He's jealous of the living room.
Exactly. It's all those living rooms, man.
So much living brings out a lot of jealousy.
The going from
It's gonna be a long podcast. I'm out of Liney's and margarita mix.
You don't know this, but Paul lives in a studio, so no living room. He's very upset.
No, Paul lives in a fort, tree fort.
So the process of thermal modification is essentially taking it from 8% down to like 2%.
Whoa.
And
That
that
seems pretty
drop
low.
in moisture content is it's quite low. Yeah.
And is it done by higher temps, longer times, or both?
Higher temps. It's the time is not nearly as much. In
Slow
fact,
cooking the wood in a crock pot,
it
if
is
you will.
more slow cooking. You could actually thermally modify lumber in your oven if you wanted to.
I
And then
may
you
or
get
may
something that
not
looks
have
like
done
this.
that.
Yeah, and then you get something.
Oh,
that looks
that's
like that,
walnut.
exactly.
You ain't kidding nobody.
Buddy, this is
So-
red oak. Love it.
That's very cool.
It smells so good too. It smells like a s'more.
I feel like we've gotten a little off track on the podcast. Have
What?
we done
fine.
what's on our bench?
We'll do it after.
No, we have not done
Ooh.
what's. We'll do it. So it's fine. We're
Yeah.
fine right now. This
You
is
know
great. This is good stuff. This is the stuff we wanted. This is why. This is why they're on
I'm
here.
just trying to
As a
keep everybody
fan of
on
this
track.
podcast, that's like my favorite segment.
We'll get to it.
It goes.
See?
It goes.
Honestly, I'm looking forward to Midwest weather. That's what I really
Yeah,
want
no,
to
it goes
understand.
weather. Actually, it goes.
That's a
real
new
estate.
segment.
Yeah.
We haven't released that.
So why don't we do
on,
this?
public yet?
We can jump in on a quick what's on my bench,
Well,
and then
before
we'll
we do
go
any
into
of
the
that-
questions.
We got to get into reviews. So
Oh,
this is
yeah,
we
yeah,
got
yeah.
reviews. We got to
So
do
let's
reviews
restart.
real
That's
quick.
a long intro, guys. I love
Yeah,
it.
we're way
Huge
into it. Here,
intro.
let's
Yeah.
let's
Oh,
do
by the
reviews
way,
right
my
here.
name's Paul, and I'm here. They found me at 7-Eleven, but I'm here. And I Googled everything you asked me just before.
This is
Outstanding.
Silent Paul.
Quick Googler. And loud Jeff.
Let's go into
Yeah.
our review segment with our wonderful jingle.
Oh, Black Betty, ram lamb.
Doesn't make sense as an outsider, but that's definitely our jingle for going into reviews. It's dancing. Oh, Black Betty.
I know
Ram
we
lamb.
don't have any reviews to share this week.
Well, I
However-
didn't announce it.
Oh,
Wait,
I'm sorry.
We have
We
one.
don't have any
Continue,
reviews
Mike.
this week, so we're gonna go into the
Check-
next
check
segment.
the
Dan, what
email,
were you gonna
Mike.
say?
I know we don't have any reviews this week.
No, we're not gonna do them because of guests.
But I saw a license plate here in Nebraska that
Oh.
said Black Betty, and I missed an opportunity to record it.
You chased him down.
I'm
next time.
so like,
But you saw the
upset
one
with
that
myself.
Tomas sent from the French Apple store, right?
Yeah, I did. Yeah,
Okay.
we'll play that next week.
Next
for
week?
sure.
Okay.
But anyway, we're gonna go into our what's on the bench segment now. We're gonna go round robin it. We'll play this first.
what's on my bench?
That is also Dan.
I told you,
singing
gentlemen.
What's on my bench?
I'm the talent.
He is the
He's the
talent.
jingle guy.
Yeah. He's our Celine
It
Dion.
shows.
You didn't
It really
believe me.
shows, man.
You
No,
didn't
it
believe
shows.
me, but here we are.
I'm impressed, really. We need a theme song for our company, and we just let's talk after. I don't
Yeah,
want to.
yeah.
I don't want to.
Yeah.
Let's
Yeah,
take this
yeah,
off. off.
You know
off-
where to find me.
It-
I got it.
This is where I fit my CNC Music Factory joke in for Cambium Power, and Dan be like, everybody salvage now or something like that. I don't know.
CNC is perfect because it's such a great wood joke too.
Yeah, it is.
But it's been done. Dave Picciuto does that for his CNC.
Exactly.
Mm,
Mm.
All right, listen, Paul, what's going on
Um,
with you this week? I want to know what's going on.
Paul, what are you working on?
A lot.
He wasn't ready.
I wasn't ready for that.
We can
Currently,
throw it to
I've
someone
got
else?
I got an 18-foot walnut conference table being built. I got a
Holy
12-foot
moly.
conference table being built.
Wait, how,
Is that
got-
wide or long, Paul?
Those are
It's
all
both.
length. Those
All
are
right.
all length. I
Wide
got,
would be something to talk about.
That would be a big width. That would be one big wide table.
Thick and wide.
Thick and wide. We've got we've got 100 cutting boards that just got ordered by the Guiness brewery here in Maryland.
Oh.
That's pretty cool.
Nice.
I didn't realize we were having a cutting board guy on. Oh my goodness.
Dude, those
Call
keep
him
the
a big
lights
Took
on,
many
man.
coasters and sent them to this guy named Daniel Dunlap. I don't know. He wanted a bunch of coasters. He says he couldn't make them fast enough, and people reject them because they break.
People
and
would
bug
believe
them.
that if it was bow ties, Paul. Continue.
I've got and a barn door. I mean, we're in the middle of a walnut barn door.
Nice.
That's what I got. That is what is on the benches of the guys. in my
Made
shop
from the
right
tree behind him.
now. Yeah.
Really making those cutting boards for the brewery, too.
every single object in my shop right now and every single stick of lumber is salvage material from Baltimore.
That's awesome.
Actually, we're going to come back to you, Paul. I want to hear more about your story. I feel like there's more there.
For sure.
So
yeah.
Throw it to somebody else if you don't mind.
Jeff, what you got going on this week? What you got going?
Oof, this has been a wild week, actually. Specifically today, I spent a lot of time on the road today. We were doing 2 massive Carbon Smart wood deliveries in Connecticut. One for an architect house for some exterior wood, and another one for a restaurant that I'm really excited about on Worcester Street. Do you guys know anything about Worcester Street in New Haven?
No.
Anybody in New Haven?
Was it on
fans?
The Office by chance?
No.
No, please don't bring up pizza on the show.
Oh, come on, guys. New Haven pizza? That's not a thing? You guys don't know about that?
No, we only know about Casey's.
I don't even know. Like Casey and JoJo?
No, Casey, the gas station. Dan swears by that pizza.
Anyway, well, the best pizza in the world is in New Haven.
Nope.
It's in New Jersey.
Hands down. And
this is a really like touchy subject on this podcast.
Oh god.
No, it's okay to be touchy, but like you can.
I'm gonna be clear. I'm lactose intolerant. Can we move on?
Yeah. So anyway, there's this really famous, world famous street in New Haven called Worcester Street, and there's a new restaurant going on there, and we have a whole bunch of Carbon Smart flooring going on there. And I was there to do a delivery today, and it was super exciting seeing all that stuff go in.
That's awesome.
Nice. What do you mean by, I'm sorry, what do you mean by Carbon Smart flooring?
So going back to the earlier part of the podcast, when we talked about Carbon Smart wood being locally processed, locally dried, locally salvaged, and then funding local tree planting, that's Carbon Smart wood.
Fantastic. That's cool, man.
That's awesome.
That's dope.
We love that. Hey, Dan.
Yep.
Tell us about your week, buddy.
It's not as exciting as these 2 gentlemen. I'll tell you that much. I did a lot of Etsy orders. I'm actually all caught up on Etsy orders, which is really fantastic feeling right now.
What's an Etsy order look like for you, Dan? Just for someone that doesn't know.
I do a lot of bow ties. Believe it or not, there's a lot of woodworkers out there that want to pre-order their bow ties. They don't want to cut them out themselves. And I do a lot of that. And I've been doing a lot of zero clearance inserts for different miter saws and table saws. So I've been doing a lot of that. It's been quite an adventure. I've kind of spawned this whole small scale manufacturing type of situation. I kind of stumbled upon it. It's been fun. It's been great. It's putting food on the table, quite honestly. So it's nice. And awesome. On top of that, I actually finished a standard size door for a client, but they're going to put a 1-inch piece of glass in it. I have no idea what this door is going to be for, but I built it out of solid hard maple, and it was a stick frame door. The glass is going to be like 77 by 33, and the door itself is going to be I want to say 84 by 36, so you can do the math. And
is it like going into a private investigator's office?
No, it's going into a private residence. Actually, I've been doing a lot of private residence doors. This is a long story. I'm currently doing a door. I haven't finished it yet. This goes back 6-7 months. I feel like, guys, right?
Dan loves long-term projects. That's his thing.
I'm a one guy shop. But I built a door for a residential client.
One Brimley shop.
Nice.
I built a door for a residential client that's 42 by 96. It's very custom, and I'm building the actual door jamb and the door jamb and the transom. The transom's going to be another foot on top of the door, so it's going to be 9.5 feet tall. And so I built this for them, and they keep coming back to me for other doors and so on and so forth. And we're up to, I want to say 147.
147 doors?
Nope. 1 + 4 + 7. 12 doors. 12 doors for this client.
plus.
Math guy.
Yeah.
So close.
Did I get that wrong? 1 + 4
No,
+ 7.
you were right.
No, that's
You're right.
12.
Nailed
You're
it.
right.
You nailed it, dude.
Why are you
I'm so
making me
impressed.
question myself?
Because it's so fun.
Stop it.
That's so funny.
That is hard.
So I'm doing this for this client, and on top of that, I've been working with their window installer, and he's actually come to me for other doors for his company. So I'm like the door
Networking.
guy now, apparently.
It's the best.
So I finished that, and I'm probably gonna start on some faux beams for a client out in West Omaha. If you're local to me, you understand what that means. That's where all the people with more money than they know what to do with type of people.
Rich folk.
Yeah. So I'm gonna build some faux beams for this client that goes over their living room, and I'm gonna come up with a pretty ingenious way to install these. I'm really excited about it. I don't want to divulge too much, but I think it's going to be really smart and innovative, and we'll see. We'll see where that goes.
Is Brad Nails?
It's gonna be Ryobi, Brad Nails. It's gonna be.
That's all right. Foam beams aren't that heavy.
Crazy.
Yeah, I thought you were a woodworker.
No, actually,
Foam worker.
Actually, I'm gonna be straight up honest with you. When I first talked to this, when I first talked to this client and they were talking to me about beams, if you do a Google search for faux beams, you can find these foam beams, and they go across the whole ceiling. Wood. Yeah, and I was like, oh, this would be perfect. But the beams that I'm going to put up in this ceiling, it's like a barn ceiling. It's going to be I forget the words. Words are hard for me. I do a podcast.
A cathedral ceiling.
Cathedral.
Ceiling?
Thank you, Paul.
Nice.
It's going to be cathedral ceiling, and they're going to go straight across. So you can't put up foam. It's going to sag and look really terrible. So I actually have to make them out of wood. So the way I've come up with to mount them, it's going to be pretty ingenious. It's going to look seamless. I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, humble is the word that comes to mind when I think of
I'm gonna share more of that on my page as it materializes, and all these guys are talking over me. They're just dovetails. They're just mad that I'm smarter than they are, and I'm in Nebraska. Anyway,
there's a lot on your bench.
What's that roof called?
I want to hear. I'm dying to hear what Mike has going on this week.
This week was really busy. The last few weeks have been very busy, but we caught up. We've got a customer had ordered 2 barn doors, conference table, 2 custom signs, and then another table for their employees to eat on. We just delivered all of that this morning. That felt really good to get that stuff out of the shop. Really good. We did an English elm conference table. It was perfect book match. The book match was just gorgeous. So that came up from up north, up by Chico, and it was really pretty. And I never really done signs. The customer asked. I don't do a lot of signs. I like doing the custom wood signs, but they had asked for one of those ones where the lettering is all embossed on there, so it's it has a 3-dimensional effect. So I did an English walnut, carbon smart English walnut back,
Mike,
and I used the carbon smart. I love that. Use the carbon smart English walnut backer, and then not super carbon smart MDF for the lettering.
When are you guys gonna get on that, huh?
Yeah. Wait, listen, Pete, we're working on everything. We're working on everything.
One step at a time, buddy. One step at a time.
By the way, Mike, I was gonna ask you, how'd you attach the letters? Did you end up doing something from the back, or like did you glue them on?
I did. I always do something from the back. No, it's glued on. It's glued on. It's a CA glue. So what we did is I actually lasered the letters out on my laser out of it was 1/2-inch MDF, and then we used the negative cutout as the template to put everything in place. So what we did, the material is a 1/2 inch thick, so I made shims that were 0.45 inches thick, so it was 0.05 of overlay over the letters. So we glued them and sprayed them, and when it dropped into place, it stayed in place and nothing. It worked out perfect. So
Mike, it sounds like you saw the sign and it opened up your eyes.
It's You are the ace of base. It's
Oh,
it's
nice.
true. No, it was actually
you.
really cool.
Thank
The
you.
sign was really fun, and I actually wouldn't mind having more of those come to the shop. It was pretty cool, and making their logo come to life. But man, that English elm table really pretty. Really glad to get that. And tomorrow we're delivering this. I am extremely proud of this desk that we finished this week. It's a double mitered waterfall. It's an L-shaped desk with a and mitered L-shaped desk with a double mitered waterfall end, and it's claro walnut. I think it's the
Looks pretty sick.
most beautiful piece of furniture that's come out of my shop. It is.
I feel like we've talked about claro walnut on the podcast before. What is that exactly?
It's black walnut grafted with English walnut. They take
like black walnut had a burn and they grafted.
They graft
English walnut
to a black walnut, correct? It's English walnut on top of a black walnut.
I feel like this might be a question for these two gentlemen.
Which wood is the power top?
Paul is.
I'm almost certain that claro walnut is essentially the Western version of what we call Eastern black walnut.
Is that what it is?
Here on the East Coast, yeah. So, but
it's always grafted though. You can see the grafting.
Right. So the grafting is commonly from the growth of the actual nuts, the walnuts that we eat from a grocery store.
Right.
You graft a claro walnut tree and a English walnut tree, and the English walnut tends to be the power top, and the claro tends to be the power bottom.
You're talking Pete's language now.
So the black walnut's the root system, right? Because it's more durable. Correct, and then it's the English on top. Yeah. Because it'll blend into the English.
Has a weak root base, and English walnut tends to get infected easily. So they put that above ground where insects and things aren't going to travel, and the claro sits down underground, and the claro tends to.
Oh, we lost Paul. We lost Paul.
Talking and he disappeared. Dude, it was just getting so good.
Come on, really?
Yeah.
There you go.
You're good. You're good. Yeah. So anyway, this desk, we're delivering this tomorrow morning. I really absolutely love this desk. It's really cool. So really excited to get that out of here.
Is that residential or commercial?
No, this is all commercial. This the everything we're doing this week, that is commercial. That is going to a very big company that's here locally. I'm really excited. I'm working with a wonderful interior designer with this project. Her client is a very large, actually tree company, oddly enough. The owner of the company is trying to do salvaged furniture through all their entire new offices. And I'm really hopeful for.
I'm sorry, maybe I'm the only one here, but every time I hear the words interior designer, I think of that crazy girl from Trading Spaces. Remember that show?
No.
The brunette
Christina? No, I don't know.
No. Like she had a real weird name. I can't even remember.
Oh my god.
Yes, you know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about, Jeff.
I remember the show. Yes.
Yes.
I don't remember
if only we had a search
name.
engine.
Oh, but that show.
Ask Jeeves.
It's crazy.
No.
It's crazy.
So hopefully we can lock down a bunch more furniture with these guys. I'm really hoping we can get a bunch more in this office.
Speaking of cool commercial stuff, Mike, though, not to piggyback on that. I know we've been talking about doing this awesome project together, and I've been calling it a Voltron desk just because of or a Voltron conference table just because of the transformer.
Does it transform like Optimus Prime?
Yeah, exactly.
It will be Optimus Prime conference table.
They want like 6 or 8 individual tables that people can sit at that then come together to form
Transbots. Transform. I don't know.
Mega desk.
Transbots.
I don't know. It's 2022. Don't judge.
Yeah, no, that project I'm really hoping that thing gets legs because I'm really looking forward to that project.
I hope you guys use legs.
Oh my god.
No, it's a new technology.
Maybe it just floats. It doesn't need legs.
It's like Back to the Future stuff.
You know, I love that idea.
Not to make it like nerdy, but you should make it like when people make like D&D custom.
Not to make it nerdy,
things,
but
and there's magnets
D&D.
on the side, so they stick together. Ooh. So you get like the desk would just like automatically like whoop and line up.
That's cool.
We'll use those old vacuum systems that they used to push letters around in banks.
Have a pump going the whole time. Yes, you have to turn on a compressor. Turn it on first.
Can you speak up? I can't hear you over the table vacuum. No, it's a horrible technology.
Just hit up Grabo, just a Grabo in every joint.
Yeah. It's gonna be super cost effective.
No, but I think we could start something, man. I think this is like a whole new product line.
It's gonna be beautiful. It's gonna be beautiful. I look forward to that project a lot for sure.
Yeah, me too.
But we're doing a prototype right now for this. I don't know if I mentioned on the show. I think I have. It's been coming up on a year in the making. These Paradise Monopoly boards. Paradise is a city up above
this
us.
guy
Burned down.
He talks about me taking a lot of time for projects. This guy.
Well, technically, he hasn't even started work on it. They were dragging.
Yeah, I haven't started on it. I just got it the okay to do a prototype.
I'm just trying.
We're done with it. But anyway, this town all burned down, and this guy it was really sad. It was really devastating to the area. And
I'm making jokes over here, and
they're doing they did like a Kickstarter for these boards, and we're building these boards. Anyway, it's like 60 of these custom Monopoly boards. It's actually, Jeff, you're aware of this project. It's 8-quarter maple, salvage maple is what the product's going to be. And then
I have all that maple for you ready to go.
I know. I think we're going to have the thumbs up on Monday. So we got all the Brusso hardware.
Was that a shake weight type of situation?
Yeah, dude, this is me like exercise. It's not exercise when you guys aren't here.
If you're not watching the video, you don't understand that.
Now this project is going to be. I'm really excited about this. It's kind of a production job. It's like a manufacturing job, but I am really excited about it because we just did the prototype, and it looks really good. Like it really does look really nice, and I'm really excited about it. So that's going to be fun.
That's awesome.
So that'll be cool fun. Project. And then we're starting these. We're starting to assemble these 4x8 carriage doors. We got
woodworkers assemble.
So we're doing these big carriage doors. I think we'll have the customer have decided on the hardware finally by middle of next week, but each door is 4 foot by 8 foot. They're getting a big pane of glass in there, shaker style. The customer has to pick out the hardware basically by next week, and then we'll have that all done. It'll be nice to get that all these projects are taking up so much space in the shop that it's just going to be really weird having the kind of space back that we haven't had in basically like a month and a half. So it's going to feel
before
really good.
You know it, that space is going to be gone again.
Yeah, Mike, it sounds like you need more space, Mike.
Well,
we all do.
I was supposed to have this slab for the new building was supposed to get poured like this week, but my contractor's like main guy got COVID and he was out for 2 weeks, and now they're just way behind. So supposedly that they're going to be starting to pour the slab not next week, but the week after. So that'll be nice. Once we can get that other building up, we can make some more space in there. It's going to be really helpful. So anyway, busy week. It's been really good. Really excited about all the stuff we got going on right now. Should we jump into some questions?
Pete hasn't gone yet.
Dude, you haven't
Just
even
saying.
I'm sorry, Pete. I thought
you got to listen to Pete.
Pete's got so much on his bench, too. I'm so excited.
He pieces out. Pete, what you got going on, buddy?
Man. 30 years I give to this company.
Can I just say, according to my audacity, we're 2 hours in.
That's wrong.
That is wrong. I'm worried.
Nebraska time.
I'm worried now.
Pete, what's going on your bench?
So that was smooth.
It was like nothing happened.
My week's been crazy again. Work's just been very, very busy. Like last week, I was pulling crazy hours. This week, I pulled a few extra hours too, but that's work, which distracts me from the fun stuff. But I got caught up on Etsy orders too, just like Dan did. I need to get a couple more out this week. My numbers are kind of down on Etsy. It's like this is historically the slow time of the year for me.
I feel like you've worked enough this week that you're going to be having a run for his money. Is that a thing?
I don't know what that was. That was
Jeff
like
Bezos.
Jeff Bezos?
Bezos?
Yeah. What about
You've
him?
worked enough that you're going to be like
the astronaut?
Yeah.
neck and neck. Neck and neck with Jeff Bezos. The astronaut.
The astronaut? Is that what you're talking about?
But
you know, the guy that flew to space in a dick rocket.
Yes. Cowboy astronaut Jeff Bezos. Done nothing else for this world.
Astronaut has 2 S's.
I'm glad we reset everything for that joke. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm glad.
Yeah.
It's a pre-show joke, right? Listen to pre-show. So yeah, got caught up on the Etsy orders. I'm wrapping up the 3D printer builds, and I definitely was not drinking last night, and definitely did not buy another printer. 100% not. But no, Prusa, the company that I would get the printers from, released their.
Did you buy that 10-year anniversary?
I bought the 10-year anniversary.
I knew you did.
That's gold and signed, and there's only 500 of each model. So I was like,
oh, you're such a
like. Because the thing is, here's the thing. I can justify that cost because that's where my business is headed. I'm gonna need it later in a year. That's usually historically the super peak time for me. That's when I peak.
It's just a little flex.
Is it? Well, it's
a little flex.
These, you know,
I have the Joseph Prusa 10-year anniversary gold edition.
And I'm not usually a fanboy for like, oh, some edition of this, or get the pre-order GTA with the helmet or whatever. I don't care. The video games,
bro. Don't even.
A helmet.
I don't know. They've done it for like Halo and stuff. Whatever. I'm just mixing genres now. But the thing is, like these 3D printers have actually. I accidentally built a business with them, and it's become this like crazy, remarkable thing that allows me to now do woodworking for fun again, and not as like my side job. Like now that's my passion project again, and I can enjoy it. And 3D printing is where my side gig is. That's now my LLC. That's where it's growing. And to get another tool that can help me long term, it's a no-brainer. Did I need one right now? No, it's just
investing in yourself.
And my future, yeah. And also it's gold and it's baller, so why not? You know, might as well.
Right on.
Gold.
It's gold.
What are you printing? What are you printing, Pete?
I print a lot of 3D, I 3D print a lot of woodworking tool accessories and random things and jigs and custom work for people. So I make a whole line of like tool hangers for all your drills and all the different, you know, DeWalt, whatever brands, Milwaukee, like Dan uses. Battery hangers, random custom accessories.
Real tools.
Yeah, real tools. So I make that, and I do a lot of custom work on the side too. And people hit me up like, "Hey, I need this thing, and I need like 50 of them." I'm like, yeah, here it is. So because I have the capacity now, I now have 8 machines in the house, and of those 8, 5 are running. Pretty much.
Whoa.
Well, 4 are running usually like nonstop for like a week, and then I can take like a week off. But around the holidays, like this last holiday season, I had 4 printers going pretty much 24/7 for about 2 months.
And that's going to be double this holiday season.
The Memorial Day holiday season?
No, like holiday, like Christmas.
That's what everybody thinks of when you say holiday season.
Oh, I just
Memorial
think
Day.
like, see,
Memorial
I worked
Day.
retail for like 15 years, so to me, holiday season is holidays.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. Because you couldn't say Christmas. It's not kosher. But so yes, so that's coming.
You're not going to cancel Christmas on my podcast.
Very Crimbus. Then what else? I upgraded my dust collector to 220, which was really tedious, but not super bad. It's just like you have to replace a capacitor, a reset button, like a fuse, rewire the board, and then like rewire the 110 motor to 220. That's easy, but then you have to replace another motor because this one has an auto HEPA cleaner, so just automatically cleans your filter every time you use it.
I've done the same thing. I don't have the auto HEPA filter cleaner. I'm super jealous about that, but I feel like they make that unnecessarily harder than it has to be.
That whole thing was like weirdly complicated for what felt like no reason. And the wiring diagram inside the actual main blower motor was the worst one I've ever seen. It wasn't a diagram of like where everything goes. It was literally like 2 arrows, and it had 2 numbers on each side. And it was the corresponding cables, but like you don't know where they go. It just
I don't know how you figured yours out.
I called up Jake Miller, and he was like, I had the exact same issue with my C-Flux. I was like, all right, cool. So that helped.
Yes, I was gonna say if I don't know how you figured yours out, but if I didn't have coffee available when I called him, I wouldn't have figured it out. It was so confusing.
It was very confusing.
It was like Chinese.
And yours was you had to swap the entire board, right? The board.
I had to swap the entire board. I had to rewire the whole motor, flip a bunch of wires. It was a whole mess.
Mike, was it actually that bad on that one?
Yes.
You have to change out a board. You have to rewire the harness and change the plug.
Okay.
It's not.
I feel like
it's not a direct drive motor.
I'm just throwing stuff out.
It's big dust.
It's not like a direct drive. Yeah, it's just It's
keeping us
it's
down.
definitely not. If you're not big dust
collector.
Big dust collector money, man, keeps
Big
us
DC.
down. Yeah, man.
if you're not comfortable with that stuff, it definitely is.
Hi, yeah, that's me.
I gotta say, they made it really nice because the new board has all the 220 stuff on it. You literally swap 3 leads to the 220 markings, and you're done with that part. And just 2 like capacitor and a little reset button. But yeah, anyways, that's done now. It's working. It purrs like a kitten, and
Nice.
I just need to figure out all the ducting. I'm trying to figure out because most of or pretty much all the ducting is
Ducting with a T or a K?
With the T.
Why would it be with the K?
Ducking.
Ducking.
No, I understand the
audios?
word. Like I
A
understand.
lot of
I
quacking.
understand a spell.
Daniel Dunlap, everyone. But I'm trying to figure out if I want to future-proof myself and run some plumbing to the side of the shop where the CNC is, because that side is going to be running a completely different dust collection just for the CNC. I'm just going to have like a wall-mounted unit running to a hopper to just drop all the chips in there. But otherwise, I'm just running everything to the other side of the shop because that's where all the tools are. That's where all the main big stuff that makes a lot of sawdust is. So I still got to figure that out. And then my neighbor comes over, like not a woodworker at all. He's an electrician and a welder, and he's like, "Why don't you just like put an end here and just cap it?" And I'm like, "I hate you, Joe. Why are you so smart?" So I'm just gonna probably run an extra Y and just cap it and leave it and figure it out in the future. I don't think it should impede any kind of airflow or anything like that.
It will not.
But I just need to figure out, because I want to run 6-inch as far as possible along the run.
Yeah, me too.
That's what I told my wife.
But but what I might actually end up doing, and actually,
she's super disappointed.
Oh, it's bad.
After we got married,
constant
she's
counseling.
like, "This is not what I signed up for."
Found out too late.
4-inch runs. What the heck?
Oh god. But so I have a question for you guys. Do you think it would make a difference if I ran, because I got the ducting that's that's standard 6-inch round, but then I also got the oval. So I have the adapters to go to oval that I was going to run flatter up against the wall so that I can, because I need some of that clearance for like my miter saw and some other areas. I was thinking about running that flat 6-inch oval, and I don't think it should impede any like that's the stuff.
I don't know what the friction coefficient is on that stuff, but
it's the same exact.
I don't know if there's any difference or not.
Same exact metal material. It's just flat. It's meant to run through a wall, like when you're running.
This should be fine.
Yeah, it should be fine. So
I can't imagine it's going to make a difference. Yeah,
I might do that on the one wall. I also need to like squeeze it in behind the garage door, the whole rail system.
I'm going to be honest. You lost me at friction coefficient.
It's when you know what? I'll tell you when you're older. That's it. And then like the last 2 days I kind of wound down and wasn't working as much. And today I was sick. I had the worst migraine I've had all year. So I've been out. I pretty much took a 7-hour done nap in the middle of the day. I clocked out of work early.
Was that migraine because of this podcast?
Yeah, I was like really stressed out. I'm gonna have to talk to these guys. But that was my week. It was super boring. Let's get into some questions.
That's Pete every Thursday, basically.
Oh,
we got a couple questions in. The first question's from Adam Barnett. He has this to ask.
Hey guys, Adam here from Barnett Custom Woodworks. So hypothetically speaking, say somebody cuts down a tree and is like, "Hey, you can have all this." So I take the tree and I get it milled, and it's like 2.5 inches thick, a bunch of slabs.
Thick?
I take it to my house and I just go in my backyard, throw down some 4x4s and start stacking these, and I use like 2x4s for stickers and 1x1s, just whatever I had. Should I do anything else to help dry these out? Is there a better process? Do they need?
No idea why that just stopped, but
obviously we
got the gist of it.
Dan, you want to answer?
We'll fix that in post. I would say slather them in maple syrup
and mayo,
and put them in the air fryer. But I want to hear what Paul and Jeff have to say. I feel like this is their area of expertise.
Oh, definitely Paul.
Paul, for sure. Go. Let's do this.
There's a lot of things that you can do. I don't even know where to begin, because normally when you talk about drying, it really comes down to the species, the thickness, the moisture content at that time. There are so many elements that go into air drying material correctly. The sticker thickness plays a big part.
You're telling me, Paul, that it's not as simple as just putting wood on a slab and just letting it sit behind the shed?
Letting it rip.
You can definitely do that, but if you want something that is going to look better than a fence board, and you're going to want to turn it into something that you want to put in your home,
why are you anti fence board? First of all,
well, you know, fence boards are necessary.
They have a purpose.
Bad kind of lumber.
It just doesn't sound like this gentleman's question is going toward making fence boards. Is my interpretation of it.
I don't think you know Adam like I know Adam.
No,
Barnett custom fence works.
All right, great. Yeah, Adam's fences.
I'm sorry. I'm gonna quit interrupting. Go ahead, Paul.
Dan's getting really defensive.
The goal is to find a way to allow Mother Nature to blow enough air over the material to pull the moisture out from what's inside.
You had me a blow.
Every wood does that differently, and the process of how that is done is very dependent on where you are in the country, depends on the relative humidity outside, it depends on so many factors. So there is a lot of information you can find online about how to do it, but the rule of thumb is to put it in an area where it is not seeing direct sun. It is, you have enough air that can flow around the slab, and prevailing winds will ideally be moving through the slab. And for every year, or for every inch in thickness, you would ideally wait a year if you're just going to be air drying.
Hey,
if
Paul,
you have a 2-inch,
would you put a tarp on top of this pile?
Oh my God, Jeff, you stole my exact question.
I would not put a tarp on top of that pile. I would definitely put something that it was rigid that would lay on top of it to keep direct rain from hitting it. But I definitely would not tarp the pile. Tarping the pile can actually trap ground moisture into the wood and cause further issue. But there's just a lot of different elements at play, and there's not really one trick other than patience. Lumber does not dry quickly. Pine is probably the only thing that you can dry very, very rapidly. But most woods, they take 100+ years to grow. They're going to take time to dry. And that's just the reality of the situation.
Pine you can dry in your air fryer. I saw this on TikTok.
Yep. Until your knot explodes.
Yes. You can air dry your pine with a hard-boiled egg, a meal, and a toothpick all in one.
And you'll have 6-inch boards. It'll be great.
So, Paul, does using a 2x4, is that like a good idea, or go with something thinner?
For a sticker?
As a sticker is a bit aggressive. You want to stay down near the 1-inch area, and he had mentioned that earlier. The other thing he mentioned that I would do differently is 4 inches off the ground is really not enough. You want to be closer to a foot off the ground if you're just sitting out in a field. You really want to keep a distance there, yeah. But there's a lot of factors at play. If this guy's in Arizona, this is a completely different conversation than if he's in New Jersey. So
he's in Michigan.
Michigan.
Oh, actually, yeah, that's accurate.
Yeah, so if he's in Michigan, he then 12. That's like New Jersey in so many ways.
Ouch. Sorry, Michigan.
Shot to Michigan.
Sorry, Michigan. I mean, sorry, Jersey or whatever's in between. But the goal is patience. The goal is to allow for air to blow through it, and the Mother Nature will do her job. And because wood wants to be at equilibrium with its surrounding environment, it's very critical that you give it that time. And when you have a freshly cut log, you have 2 types of moisture caught in that log, free water and bound water.
Ooh.
Free water is...
I feel like we could go into a high conversation about those 2 terms right there.
Okay.
I can't tell if Dan's joking or not.
No. I'm actually very serious. I mean, we've never heard that before on this podcast. I mean, that seems very... Can you
explain the concepts real quick?
Yeah, real quick. If you were to take a normal sponge and you were to get it soaking wet, that sponge has free and bound water in it. If you were to squeeze the ever-living daylights out of it like Dan does a beer can,
thank you,
you're going to get the free water is going to leave. That's all the water you'll see coming out of a sponge. That's the free water. It's the easy stuff to get out. But when you put the sponge down, the sponge is still wet.
Right.
And it takes time for that to slowly. So that's the bound water.
Mm.
So
that's
free water.
Genius.
Yeah, that's a very simple way to understand it. Yeah.
Explain it to me like I'm 5, Paul. Thank you. That's perfect.
Nailed it.
No, that's great. Of all the episodes we've done, I think that's the first time we've actually talked about that. And I think that's brilliant and it's very good information to have.
We haven't really had anyone that dries lumber on the show yet. We've been trying to get Cremona, but he's like, who are you? So anyways.
I think it's
fantastic.
Okay. So anyway, it is actually a very complex thing. The old adage is if you stick it in an area where you allow a little air to blow through it, you don't have direct sun on it, and you give it a year per inch in thickness, you'll get it to a point in which you could probably stick it in your garage or basement with a dehumidifier and allow that bound water to really come out of the material, unless you know someone with a kiln, or unless that you're a part of a network of
I feel like
woodworking communities, woodpeckers, whatever you guys call yourselves all around the country.
I feel like a lot of people miss that point, Paul. You hear often that you need a year per thickness, and that's
per
it.
Inch of thickness.
That's everything
per inch
you
of
hear.
Thickness, yeah.
I'm sorry. Yes, you need a year per inch of thickness, and that's all you hear. But you've like touched on something else there that you actually need to do a little bit more.
Correct. Yeah. And that's where, yes, that is very true. That 1 year per inch in thickness is really for the free water in so many ways to come out of the material. Some of the bound water will also come out from Mother Nature. But there is a point where wood sitting outside is going to take the moisture content of what's commonly going on outside in your environment. And if you're in Arizona, the relative humidity outside is quite low, where if you're in New Jersey or Michigan, the relative humidity is commonly quite higher. And there are zones in which you can look this up, and there's a lot of information about this online, where you can really see what is the average relative humidity of the area in which you live in.
That's fantastic.
Most areas of the country, you're only going to get lumber down to about 15% MC, which is great if you are going to build a picnic table. But if you're going to put that wood in your house or in a conditioned space, you got to get that bound water out. And that bound water takes a lot of energy, and it takes heat, and it takes air velocity, and it takes all sorts of different elements that will pull that moisture out. And the reality is, if you built a table that was at 15% moisture content and you didn't do that final bit of kiln drying, and you stick it in your house will be naturally doing that for you. However, the table's constructed and erected, and all that material needs to move and shift to be able to allow for that loss of moisture. And that is really where the wheels start coming off the bus in terms of cracking, checking, cupping, bowing, the internal stresses that you're going to put in the material that unfortunately can ruin a project. Not necessarily every project, but it can really ruin a project.
That's great info.
Yeah, for sure. Super good stuff. Is there anything
that was also the name of our rap group that we were trying to get together, though? Cracking, bowing, cupping. It didn't really work out very well.
Was there a third guy named Boeing?
Which one of you is cupping? Anyway.
No.
So, it's Jeff. No. All right. So let's play Tomas' question here. He's our friend from France. Here's his.
Welcome for the first edition of What Did the French Say? And here comes our first contenders. No fun is to be had in his traveling trailer, but it doesn't mean he won't enjoy a golden shower at the end of the holidays at his back. Please welcome Daniel! Coming up next, he swears he hates pine, but he actually grows his own pine lumber in his backyard. A thunder of applause for Mike! Last but not least, fresh from the motherland, when he's not debugging computers, he's bugging his army of printing robot slaves. Please meet Peter! Alright, for this first edition, and thanks to Boulder Woodworking, the winner will win a walnut stained pine farm table kit. Are you ready?
Great.
Yes.
Okay.
No, we'd love to do it for sure.
All right, let's hear it. Hi guys, it's Thomas from France. So here are my questions. First, I would like to know if you will open a branch in France. You might already have someone interested here there. Also, I'm really curious if you know what is the most common kind of wood in cities and why. And finally, is there some specific challenges in salvaging wood in the cities? I can only imagine the difficulties of dragging a big tree through a busy city. Thank you. Bye.
I heard that question, and it sounds like he says the most common food.
he is a foodie, but I mean, I think it's wood for this one. So I think yes, I think we're going to lean. Even if it is food, let's lean into the wood thing. But
okay, better
I think
question.
It's better. It makes more. It's
that makes sense.
But I mean, it's kind of probably hard to answer that question, though, right? I mean, every city's got different trees, right? Like it's impossible to answer, right? Yeah, I mean, I
feel like we need to make a trip to France. For research.
Let's say, I mean, pick a random city. I mean,
AWP in Paris via Cambium carbon. Here we go.
Yes. I mean, you can't really answer that question, that first part. There's no like common tree for every city.
First part you can definitely answer. Are they opening up a branch in France?
All right, which
we're not at this moment.
Cambium carbon.
We're not ruling it out.
No, nobody here is.
He's not asking about AWP. He doesn't.
I thought he was going to. AWP was opening a branch. I was like, we're not. No,
a little like a pop-up shop.
Yeah.
Well, still not ruling it out.
No, but
yes,
that is a good question because like I think the reason he might be asking is because like in Europe, like there are certain countries that are just like flooded with a certain type of tree. It's not so much a region thing, it's a national thing, or it's like their national tree, and they will plant it everywhere. Like in my hometown in Poland, like there's pretty much the same trees grown almost everywhere around town. The land of Poland. Yep. So Paul and I go there every year. But that's, nice. I think, why he might be asking a question in France, because I guess they kind of cared more about it. Here we just planted trees.
I mean, what's
there's
good.
Exactly there's there's definitely a lot of cities, Europe especially, after the wars, they planted a ton of whatever they could get their hands on to repopulate their tree count. So that's one important thing.
What war are you talking about specifically? The war of 1812.
Yeah. The Spanish. I'm making a war up. Yeah, 1812 is good. Let's start with that. So
I'm sorry, I don't know why that's so funny to me.
Nebraska.
So in the United States, we actually focus on the tree diversity because it actually helps trees if they are all different. They actually grow better, and that's one thing that we definitely focus on. Yeah,
shocking.
With the tree replanting,
it works everywhere.
Yeah, it does work everywhere. There's a lot of importance to it, and one of the things that needs to be focused on for any tree planting anywhere in the world is what is going to be the end use of that tree after it's done providing oxygen and shade. And
toothpicks.
That's where a lot of countries tend to get it wrong, or a lot of cities or places tend to get it wrong, because if it was all cottonwood, we just have a lot of firewood.
Don't even start. Don't even. Paul, I will unfollow you mid podcast.
He will do it.
Is that a thing? Can I do that?
I mean, anything's possible.
And then I guess the last question was like, what are some of the difficulties you guys had with like extracting lumber? But you've kind of talked about the logistical, right?
Yeah, I mean, logistics are always going to be a bit of a struggle, especially when you're working with cities and where that tree falls and what the incentives are. Like that's always the biggest thing. If the city has to get a tree out as quick as possible, sometimes there's no time to really make sure it's done the right way if there's no policy at the city level. And so that's one of the things we're really working on, is working with cities, municipalities, NGOs all over the country to try to develop policy. So we know that if a tree falls, no matter who's taking it down, it ends up in the right spot and it ends up being saved in the right way. But right now, it just depends where it falls. Sometimes they just end up being chipped and burnt, and there's nothing we can do about it.
Question. beings that you harvest trees from urban areas or not rural,
Sure,
suburban areas or whatever, have you had to invest in specific equipment to navigate such neighborhoods or whatever to get the tree out of that situation? I mean,
or do you rent it?
You could. I'm like, we've taken the path, and this is what we recommend to a lot of people, is to develop partnerships. There's a lot of people that are already playing in this space, and that they don't have an outlet. And until partnerships and people get together and realize that there are assets amongst different businesses.
Are you talking about specifically like urban arborists that just come down and take trees?
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. Yep.
So you partner up with those types of companies, and
because they would have to dispose of it, right?
Mutually beneficial to one another.
It costs them more money to cut it up. It costs them more money to dispose of it. There's tipping fees if they have to put it in a landfill. I mean, there's all sorts of things that go into it.
Right.
Make their job easier. And also a lot of these arborists, they want to do the right thing, and they want to see the tree have a second life. And so to be tapped into this type of supply chain is actually really exciting for them, and to be able to see that come all the way through and to see that be passed along to somebody that's going to turn into an object locally, it's really what they want.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So
very cool.
The answer is yes, we have equipment. The answer is also yes, we partner with people. Sometimes you have to rent equipment. Sometimes you got to get creative. If you've got a 50-inch diameter walnut that's 20 feet long, and the crown is dead as a doornail, and it's 10 feet off someone's house,
I'll rent.
You got to do whatever it takes to be able to.
I'll rent something. I'll be there.
An island off of Oregon.
Like just to give you an example, the largest tree that we have salvaged was a 67-inch diameter elm tree, where the butt log was 20 feet long.
You had me at butt log.
We had to cut it into a 12-foot length and an 8-foot length. The 12-foot butt log weighed 33,000 pounds.
Holy moly.
We brought in 4 separate tree companies, 2 cranes, a semi, and all of these guys had never worked together, but they all knew each other. They were all competition in their eyes. And we brought them all into the same property, had the same idea, and really showed them what it takes to be able to salvage something like this. And there were 17 people involved in doing this, and that didn't include us at all. And out of those 17 people that we orchestrated, they all at the end really saw the value in working together to bring what they throw away every day, 7 days a week, into something of value. And it's really cool to see all those people really come together and be able to pull that off.
That's crazy.
That's awesome.
And do you, when was this? Do you have any recollection of when this was? Do you have any resource that tells you what this became by chance?
So yes. So this was the summer of COVID, the first summer of COVID.
2020?
2020. Yep. And when we take our tree down, we definitely take our when we work with companies to take trees down, and we're salvaging trees, we take pictures and we try and document as much as possible. At Cambium, we have a software package called Trace, which we are able to trace the origin of these trees and be able to actually
that's fantastic. I want to hear more about that actually
in a very user-friendly way. And we milled the material and had the material air drying for a certain amount of time. We just finished drying 4 slabs out of the, I think 16 or 17 that we got out of both logs.
Holy moly.
And it's impressive stuff. I'm like, it's a tree of that size is really just not that common to get your hands on. And so yeah, it's nice to be able to track that and trace that. And then the clients that we bring in at Baltimore Fallen Lumber, we're able to really show them exactly what that story is and what the history is with that. And really be able to give them insight on exactly what it is they're making an investment into. And I really do view it as an investment because these people,
for sure,
we've invested a tremendous amount of time and money to be able to pull this off. And these people are buying into that very idea. And they view it as a family investment of like, I want this to go to my children and so on and so forth. Cool. I'm sure you guys see the same thing in the things that you build and the people you work with.
You actually piqued my interest. I'm sorry, Mike and Pete, I have a lot of questions.
He usually doesn't have any questions, so we're just letting him
this is very like unnatural for me. You piqued my interest when you talked about the Trace app. Can you elaborate more on that? What is that? That sounds fascinating to me.
Yeah. So we've developed software. Yeah, it is. It's neat because just like every bit of clothing we're wearing, there's a made in whatever country tag.
Myanmar.
We're trying to bring that idea to the material in which makers make things out of. So we can trace a tree from its origin all the way to its completed object.
That's fantastic. I love that.
And we're using smartphones, QR codes, barcodes. We're using a combination of old world technology, new world technology to be able to pull it off. And we're going to try and bring it about in a way in which the consumer can really enjoy the story by producing a live QR code that can be scanned by any individual on the planet with a smartphone and web access.
That's so cool.
So not only are you giving second life to these urban logging situations, but you can provide a story, which is
100%
invaluable to these potential clients. I mean, you can show where this log came from and the origin, and I think that's great in this climate. I think that's a huge selling point. Yeah. I think people want to know the story that comes behind.
You just buy lumber, you don't know what the value is. You don't know.
That's fantastic. I love it. I love it.
Knowing where it comes from is important.
You guys would love it even more, and so do the listeners, I would imagine, because we're doing this and the idea of giving makers the ability to pass this message along to their customers. So it's providing a network. It's providing a group of people that can all use the software. We can all learn from each other. We can all work together. And this is something you can pass to your customer as well.
The software is available on the App Store, or
no,
can anybody download this?
Buy into this. It's a program. You're like a lumber company would buy it.
Okay. Yeah, it's a software. It's a software right now. It's a living, breathing organism too. It's like we're constantly developing it. We have like 65 users right now that are all urban loggers, salvage people that are in our network that are taking city trees and turning them into objects or turning them into lumber. It's really exciting, and we're creating both sides of the software marketplace too. It's like we're building out the arborist side, but then also the side where is consumer facing, and we're creating objects that can live on forever as well with QR codes attached to them. So imagine walking into a brewery, seeing a table with a QR code and scanning it, and then getting the whole story of where that object came from.
That's cool.
Who milled it and who dried it and who made it and where the tree stood before that. And you're just there having a beer.
Yep. I love it. You had me at having a beer.
Mike, what about you? Had a bunch of questions lined up. Do you have any?
Yeah, I do. I mean, we're like super deep into this episode, so I don't know how deep.
I don't know.
I'm sorry. I told y'all I had no questions, but I have a lot of questions when we get into this.
No, it's good. It's all
take your best one.
It's amazing stuff. Like, I mean, this is something that's like really near and dear to my heart. Like, this is something I love. Like, I love this stuff. I'm really glad that Dan was asking a bunch of questions. It's really cool. I'm gonna run through these real quick. But I mean, how has technology helped the salvage wood movement? I mean, obviously, you guys are developing software for this, but how is technology helping this specifically? In what ways are you guys seeing that advance?
I mean, it is absolutely just crucial to advancing this movement. A lot of these companies that have been doing this already for decades have not really rooted themselves in technology, and it hasn't allowed a lot of their material to be seen by more eyeballs. So
it's gotten stagnant.
They're totally
for a long time,
and for too long. It's been mom and pop generational businesses that where you ask, hey, what do you have in inventory? And one person knows because they're the only person that's milled all the logs. So they go, oh yeah, I've got that slab here. Let me go pull a bunch of slabs around and tell you where it is. So being able to get inventory onto an app so that people can see it and that they can make smart business decisions and be efficient for demand that comes in and allow people to easily see this stuff on their website. I mean, that is a huge game changer, not only making these shops more efficient in how they run their business so that when somebody comes in and says, hey, I want to buy a maple slab and here's the dimensions I'm looking for, it's not a 6-hour visit where they're pulling out slabs and somebody's looking at them. They've already been able to go online or they're able to walk around on their own and scan QR codes and get the story and get the dimensions and get the pricing. So the person that's actually milling the logs doesn't actually have to be there to sell them. And that is so important to getting more eyeballs on the product. And then never mind the aggregation side that we've been talking about. Being able to pool a lot of this material across multiple shops and having some larger national demand tap into that. I mean, that's all done through technology. It's all done through the platform. And that is obviously what we're really building.
Yeah. Leveraging that. I mean, right now I would say that currently this is my observation, you guys will know more than me. The traditional lumber industry is still outpacing the salvaged lumber industry. I mean, it's just not, it's just, there's a place for it. It's just, do you see the salvage lumber? I mean, the problem, what you said before was you don't want to create a dirty market by saying, oh yeah, we want to salvage it, because it's just going to, what'll happen is it'll just turn the salvaged lumber into just traditional lumber where they're just logging these trees to get the salvaged lumber. And that all they're doing is logging trees and calling it salvage lumber. So I feel like it has to be, it could never overtake that. I feel like it can never overtake the traditional lumber industry, because for it to be a salvage tree, it needs to be a tree that was brought down in a natural way. I guess it has to fell naturally. There isn't someone out there trying to drop it. It's posing a danger either to a domicile or to a person or to itself where it's going to die. So you bring that, it comes down or it needs to be brought down. Yeah. Or whatever it is. Right. So I think for me, every time I get to use a salvaged piece of wood over a traditionally acquired piece of lumber, I feel much better about the product. Yeah. I feel like I'm helping in some way, you know, and I go out of my way to chase those projects and to make sure I can make that lumber. Obviously you guys are doing the carbon smart lumber, which I love. And this isn't like a big plug for that, but I mean, it kind of is, I guess, but the carbon smart lumber is a way to get species in our hands that we wouldn't traditionally be able to do. And I think that with woodworkers, they love to do things that are special, and they love to make projects out of species that are special. And I think that it's going to naturally it's going to give the traditional lumber industry kind of a run for its money, I think, over time. What are your guys' thoughts on that? I know that was like a super long rant to get the point, but I think that there's more. I'm not the only person that feels as a woodworker that I want to use this type of lumber as much as I can in my projects. And I think that is going to naturally create a problem for the lumber industry. So how do you think they'll respond?
Personally, for me, I think there is what we're going to disrupt is the plastic industry more than the lumber industry.
That's great.
It's the North America is the largest, most sustainable driven forest in the world. The entire world relies on the hardwoods we grow, and the lumber industry,
which is crazy. I don't think a lot of people realize that. That's an actual fact.
Yes, that is a real fact. So the rest of the world is really enjoying most of our wood. I'm like, the amount of wood we use in the United States, and I told that to my exactly. Wife. is commonly going overseas. So I really have never viewed this being a displacement of what the industry is doing. I just view it as an additional option that is going to that was going to put other things out And I feel like what you were hitting on about the amount of excitement you have towards using the material, it's because you're putting a bit of your heart and soul into something, and you just don't want it to look just as generic as the next thing that's being made. And the idea that you can really tell a story with the material and tell a story about yourself, it really brings a better value out of what it is that you're making for your customer.
I call it a narrative driven piece for my, I mean, that's what I usually call, I say it's a narrative driven piece. There's a story behind this piece. Like, I mean, this customer who I delivered this table today. I was like, look, this tree came down in Chico, and she was like, her face lit up. That's not something that we've had access to in the past. I mean,
if you told that customer this tree came down in Nebraska, they'd be like, oh,
but if they're from Nebraska, they're going to be like, that's awesome. Yeah.
It's a locality.
It's type of community. It's community. So, and this narrative driven projects are the ones I really like. I'm doing these Monopoly board things in theory. Hopefully this gets locked up, but we're going to be doing salvaged maple for this project. And that's cool. That is so cool. It's much cooler and much more exciting than I went to the lumber store and bought maple. You know, it just is. That's just, no one can argue with that fact. So I think I think what my question really was though, is like, I agree with 100%. The traditionally acquired lumber world, it can't really go away because you can't fulfill all the needs through salvage lumber. You just can't. I guess my question is do you think that the traditional lumber industry, do you think big lumber will retaliate in some way to this salvage movement? Do you see them doing anything?
I mean,
do you see them worrying about this?
I mean, they are so massive that if they wanted to, they could make a huge splash into this space, but it would be changing decades and decades of how they've already done things.
They've proven that they won't, because
I've actually already seen this happening at my local Menards, believe it or not. Menard, I know everybody laughs. Everybody laughs. Everybody laughs.
It sounds like a made up store.
No, it's not a made up store. It's a real store.
Real, but it's
fantastic. But Menards, actually local to me, already sells little live edge slabs. I mean, they're already tapping into it, is
From
what
where?
I'm saying. Who knows? Who knows? That's the thing.
That's the thing. You can sell live edge slabs anywhere.
But it doesn't matter to the local consumer. They don't care. They're like, whoa, look at this. It's a live edge actual pice of wood.
But that's the difference, is the story.
That's the huge difference, but that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, there's a lot of lumber suppliers that sell live edge slabs, and that have no story, that they've gotten from logs hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of miles away, and they bring it there because that's what the market, especially the COVID market, has exploded in the live edge and the river tables and the epoxy tables and all this stuff, right? So they're just trying to answer what the consumer demand is, where that still doesn't have the story, and it's still not rooted in the mission of sustainability or the excitement over where that wood came from, where that slab came from. And some of the trees that we talk about, not only, I mean, like we pulled a couple white oak trees from a golf course, like a super famous golf course in Connecticut, that people are lining up because they're golfers that have played on that golf course, and they want tables and they want countertops and they want to be part of that because that story is so unique. Paul's taken down trees from Civil War battlefields, from the Washington Mall, and we're even working on one that might even come down from the White House lawn. You know, there's stories behind all those things that you can tell forever that have such a unique moment in time. But it's not just those special trees. Like, every tree has a story, and it's about telling that and what it's rooted in the location and in the mission and the impact.
So I have customers that, I mean, I have corporate like fabricate. We'll do manufacturing jobs, you know, and it's like, I don't love it, but it's cash flow and businesses need it, you know. But the jobs that mean the most are the ones where where there's buy-in. And I can tell, like, when a customer reaches out and they're like, hey, we need a table made, and then they start sending me these pictures, I have these like really critical moments where I can I know that I can tell where the customer is either they just want a table for as cheap as they can get it, but they also still want it custom made, which is just not something I just know right off the bat that I'm not going to be the right person for this job. That customer is going to have to go elsewhere. I don't want to just make them the cheapest table. I don't want to make them the most expensive table. I really do. But I want them to have a nice table with a great story. You know what I mean? Like, I've got to get them to buy in, and some people just won't buy in. And I just go, hey, you know, I'm not the right guy. Here's, you know, go another direction.
you have to become more of a woodworker. Sorry, you have to become more of a salesman than a woodworker. You have to sell them the story.
Right. And that's it's 100% it. You have to be able to sell the story. It's the narrative based projects and getting the customer to buy in, and you have to share with them your excitement for that story, I guess. I mean, and
that's the easy part.
100%.
That's the easy part by far.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you get them
Like,
sold in
most
the
people want
story,
that.
it doesn't matter after that. Like, you know, then you can shoehorn in some of these unique species that we talked about that are coming from the urban environment that we really want to utilize because they're bought in on the story. So the rest of it is easy after that. And that's really what we're focused on.
That's what I wanted to add, actually. Any jackass, with all due respect, can watch a YouTube video and make a table. But it takes a real solid storyteller or salesman to sell the client on the story of the table and the story of the wood and where it came from.
This wood came from the oldest Menards in Nebraska.
And that's the original Menards.
I think some people look at these things and they go, oh man, this is like, they see it as this daunting task. We're like, oh, I have to sell this thing. The thing sells itself. Frankly.
Absolutely,
I mean,
it does.
When the story is super cool like that, like a tree from the White House, what that tree is already sold.
Itself.
Whatever piece of furniture that is, it's been sold for however long as soon as that tree was planted, the piece of furniture that was going to be made from that was sold 180 years ago or whenever that tree was planted.
Exactly.
Like you could be the worst salesman in the world and you were going to sell the dopest.
You could be a terrible woodworker.
From that. Yeah, I mean, if that tree itself has already sold itself. Like it's
exactly.
So you got to.
I'm going to make you the best cutting board from this tree.
Yeah, these coasters are going to be dope. No, it's you got to. That's the thing where like you got to leverage the story into getting it into this beautiful piece of furniture, and it's on to the woodworker to make it into this thing that's not just beautiful but functional and amazing.
Exactly.
Like the tree sells us. I mean, that's the point I was trying to make. With
Yes,
that.
I like that. The tree sells itself.
The tree does sell itself. It's great.
So as soon as it's a notable piece of wood, you're good luck. Good luck not selling that. I mean, that's going to be the real problem.
That would be a feat among itself to not be able to sell that.
Go out of your way to not sell it.
No, and we actually stress that like everything's notable though. Like when you say like this wood came from a tree in Baltimore, it's better than saying this wood came from Home Depot in Baltimore, right? Like that
Menards
still,
in Omaha.
Technically,
instantly
Baltimore.
Instantly,
I'm right here.
It instantly holds more value when it just does. That's just how it works. That's how humanity works. It's putting a name to a face. That's just how it works. So it's
the Menards in Omaha has maple.
Wow. And also cargo shorts. And
accurate.
That's great.
And fence wire. No, anyway. Pete, you got anything? I think this is a long one.
Question is pretty much like, we talked about you guys being a supplier and all that stuff, but like, we didn't bring you guys on as like a brand, just like sell a product, but like, how can people work with you guys? Like, how can I get lumber from you or slabs or, what's the unit of measurement that Dan discovered for a pallet of wood?
A Brimley?
A Brimley. How can I get a Brimley of English elm delivered to my house? Like, is that a possibility? Can people?
A bunk is a thing.
Work with you guys.
Yeah, I mean, it is a great question. So right now, how we're doing this is like our website is the way you get a hold of us, or you get a hold of us individually. Like we've been doing a lot of this work manually right now, but the software that we're building that we already utilize for the supply chain and the e-commerce side eventually will be that stood up marketplace.
Are you talking about Trace?
Talking about Trace, buddy. Yeah, exactly, Dan. Appreciate it. We are talking about Trace, and that eventually will be that marketplace that will allow people to do that automatically. Right now, how we work is you work with me, you work with Paul. We develop those relationships, and depending on where you are in the country and depending on what you're looking for, we really work with our network. We work with our integrated partners that are part of our company, and we figure out how to connect that proper wood to the right project. And a lot of times we're actually out there finding projects and building demand with companies and then connecting them back into leads for all of you guys.
Small question before you go on. I don't think we've touched on this yet. Where do you, Jeff and Paul, fall into this industry? How do you fit in? personally, like I know Paul has
they're the face, right?
Well, he has that, but like, how did you find this industry? How did you make your space into this industry? Paul, I want you to go first.
Yeah,
Dan is so drunk. Oh my god,
guys! I thought I like hid that pretty well.
No, not at all. You're super duper drunk.
It's fine. It's shocking.
It's a pretty good question, though. It's a pretty smart question.
Good
Thank
question.
Yeah, it's the question you should have asked at the beginning of the podcast.
Yeah. Well, here we are. Answer it. Damn it.
Around
12:15.
For me, I grew up in love with trees. I was in the Boy Scouts. My claim to fame is an Eagle Scout. I spent most of my childhood in the woods, and I was in love with trees. And construction has been in my blood. That's what I did when I left high school, and it just, I was so in love with it. It was my hobby. And then after I had my first two kids, or my first kid, right before my second kid, my wife pretty much told me, you got to pick one thing to do moving forward. You can't be all these people. And I just went for what I loved the most, which was lumber, and trees, and wood. And I've been doing it my whole life. I'm like, I have the wood bug, and I can't let go of it.
You can get rid of that if you spray.
Mike has a wood bug too. That's
it's gonna tent it.
That's another story.
It's all good.
What about you, Jeff?
So mine is my history is completely different. My stepdad was a custom home builder, so I worked summers in the construction industry. So I was always been part of that. But honestly, I've been working with Cambium for a year, and it was a chance encounter that I met our CEO while I was in grad school, and he was finishing up grad school as well. And we got to talking, and when I was ready to make a change, Cambium Carbon was there really, really early on with only 5 employees, and I jumped in, and it's been an exciting ride. And now we've got almost 25 employees, and
that was my next question.
Really well, yeah,
fantastic.
Still pretty small team. That's cool.
Still small team, still growing rapidly and expanding, and it's been a year, and we've gone from 5 or 6 employees to 25. So, we're really excited about what the next year is going to bring. And I'm learning every day, because I've really only had 1 year of being immersed in this world. And I'm looking forward to what the next year, next 5 years, next 10 years is going to bring.
So it's fair to say that Paul has been in this industry his whole life, and you're just kind of new and you're immersed. Right from the get-go.
That's actually fair to say, Dan.
Yeah.
See, I'm not so drunk. I'm not so drunk.
No, you nailed it. That's fair to say.
Fair. Fair. Hey, you guys have been great. Let's wrap this thing up. No, this is a really great episode. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Very excited to see where Cambium Carbon goes with things. And man, just keep on pushing that salvage wood movement, man. It is just so great. Cool. I just love it so much. So I'm 100% bought in on that. And you guys are awesome resources, and we really appreciate you guys coming on the show.
We appreciate the crap out of you guys being on here.
Yeah, pretty awesome.
Appreciate you guys.
Speaking for myself, I was a little hesitant at first because I felt like this is going to be a giant commercial, but it was actually very educational and a lot of fun. So thank you for being on here.
And this is a topic that comes up a lot, like urban logging and getting logs and slabs from people ask about all the time. So this has been very eye-opening. I love it.
Great. Yeah.
I've got a very good feeling about this episode. So let's we'll be back next week with another guest on the show. Big thanks to Paul and Jeff with Cambium Carbon. Go check them out on Instagram and check out their website if you're wanting to learn more about salvage lumber and that movement and how important it is to us as woodworkers and furniture makers and the custom wood. Yeah, Pete's gonna have all the links down below for sure. So anyway, we'll talk to you guys next week. Everyone have a great week. Take it easy. Bye now.
Love you.
Bye.
Love you long time.
Adios.
Bye. Take care, guys.